Tonight, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has reported that the island, having recorded an additional 8 fatalities related to the coronavirus in the last 24 hours, brings the death toll from COVID-19 in Jamaica to 101. Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Christopher Tufton urged care home operators to strictly observe the established protocols, as the impact on these institutions can be potentially devastating.
It is quite significant where COVID enters an institution such as this one. So it's important that the protocols are followed. In this instance, this is the largest facility of its kind. I'm told not just in Jamaica, but in the Caribbean, over 400 persons stay here.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness calls for action on sustainable global recovery plan amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
In organizing this high-level event was to secure buy-in at the highest political level to mount an ambitious, coordinated international effort commensurate with the magnitude of the crisis.
And the National Works Agency is reporting that the Junction Road in St. Mary is now closed due to a failure in the embankment. Good evening. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has reported that the island, having recorded an additional 8 fatalities related to the coronavirus in the last 24 hours, brings the death toll from COVID-19 in Jamaica to 101. 6 of the 8 deceased have St. Catherine addresses. They are a 28-year-old female, a 65-year-old male, a 96-year-old male, a 65-year-old male, a 78-year-old male, and a 59-year-old male. The other 2 deceased persons are an 82-year-old female and a 78-year-old male from St. Anne and Clarendon, respectively. 2 other deaths are under investigation, according to the ministry. Jamaica also recorded 238 new confirmed COVID-19 cases on Monday, bringing the total number of cases on record for the island to 6,408 recoveries, increased by 29, bringing total recoveries to 1,770. And that is actually 6,400 and, let me just get that, 6,408 confirmed cases on the island. Of the newly confirmed cases, 147 are females and 91 are males, with ages ranging from 24 to 96 years. The cases were recorded in St. Catherine with 61, Kingston and St. Andrew 51, St. Anne 26, Westmoreland 17, St. Elizabeth 16, St. James 15, Manchester 14, Clarendon 12, Portland 11, St. Mary 8, St. Thomas 3, Trelawney 2, and Hanover 2. 26 moderately ill patients and 12 critically ill patients are among the 4,451 active cases now under observation in Jamaica. Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Christopher Tufton has urged care home operators to strictly observe the established protocols, as the impact on these institutions from COVID-19 can be potentially devastating. He made the plea during an inspection of the health and safety protocols at the Golden Age Home, Vineyard Town, St. Andrew yesterday. And we have more on this story with Colleen May.
Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is calling on operators of care homes to adhere to the established health and safety protocols implemented by the government to safeguard the welfare of their vulnerable residents and minimize the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19. Among the safety protocols are increased sanitization activities, wearing of masks, daily temperature checks, social distancing, and the establishment of isolation and quarantine facilities on site, as well as the restriction of visitors to these facilities.
So I'm here at the Golden Age Home with His Worship the Mayor, the team from the local municipality, and of course the staff, the management, again reviewing the protocols that exist as it relates to institutions, and in this case institutions where you have a lot of vulnerable persons. The golden age home, of course, means persons who are advanced in age, and many of them have underlying conditions. And if you look at how COVID has impacted this population in other jurisdictions, it is quite significant where COVID enters an institution such as this one. So it's important that the protocols are followed. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has worked with the respective organizations, the local municipal council, the KSA, and the management team of the respective agencies. In this instance, this is the largest facility of its kind. I'm told not just in Jamaica, but in the Caribbean. Over 400 persons stay here, over 150 staff members. And so the coming and the going, whether staff, the moving around of the persons who stay here, it's important that certain protocols are observed. Having looked and listened and observed, I'm satisfied that those protocols are in fact in place from the point of the worker coming to work each day, changing out into work garb, sanitizing, the wearing of the masks, through to the temperature checks on a daily basis of the persons who stay here, as well as an isolation facility, and just restrictions generally in terms of movement from one place to the next, is a demonstration that there is an observance of the protocol.
The minister, who was addressing members of the media during an inspection of the health and safety protocols at the Golden Age Home in Vineyard Town, St. Andrew yesterday, urged care home operators to strictly observe the established protocols, as the impact on these institutions can be potentially devastating.
And I want to use the opportunity to encourage the other similar institutions across the country. The response to COVID right now is going to be heavily dependent on all of us playing a role. It's going to be heavily dependent on the protocols that we establish for work, for leisure, for industry of one form or another, and in this instance for a home for the aged, being observed. And if it is the protocol that is going to help us to manage the risks. So even if one person comes in with COVID, the fact that they wear the mask and they sanitize, they could theoretically come in and leave and not spread COVID. Now, we don't want that. We don't want even one person, but the fact is all of the measures come together to create the type of protection that is required. It can't be one not doing it and others do it. Everybody has to do it. So I am very pleased to see that the measures are being taken here at the Golden Age Home, and we want to continue to encourage, and the ministry will be here to provide any assistance that is necessary.
Mayor of Kingston, Councillor Delroy Williams, who also visited the facility, urged administrators of similar facilities to protect their vulnerable population.
So it's a sizable population, and the Ministry of Health, the minister is very concerned and wants to ensure that the protocols are followed, because as you would be aware, most of the persons here are senior citizens, persons who you would regard as being in the vulnerable population. And hence it is incumbent on us to take every care and every step necessary to protect them. And the minister's visit here today is part of that, of caring for this vulnerable group, and ensuring that all the steps necessary to protect them are in place. I'm pretty sure he is confident that what is to be in place is in place. We take this opportunity to, as the minister said, to ensure or to say to the other homes and facilities operated, the Golden Age homes, that they ought to ensure that they have all the protocols in place, that they are taking all the necessary steps to protect persons within their facilities. And also we take this opportunity to thank the leadership here, the members of staff and the members of the executive, who have since the start of COVID have been very, very hardworking and committed to protecting the population resident here and across the country. And so we just want to take the opportunity to also say thank you to them, and I know they will continue to work earnestly in doing so.
General Manager of the Golden Age Home, Zonia Foster Forbes, said since the virus's arrival in the country, the health and safety protocols have been rigorously enforced with the support of the Ministries of Health and Wellness, a local government and community development, as well as the KSAMC and the Board of Supervision.
Since the COVID, we have been observing continually the protocols that has been established. We have got support from the KSAMC, Board of Supervision, and our Ministry of Local Government. And we have been imploring the staff. So it's a weekly thing that we send out reminders. You have to wear your mask, you have to observe the protocols. And we'll continue to do that because we know the vulnerability of the group, the community that we are managing. So we'll continue to do that. Generator was given to us by the Ministry of Local Government. And it's an addition to what we have, and it provides the additional power supply to manage the home more efficiently.
Reporting for Mello TV News, I'm Colleen May.
Thanks, Colleen. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has advised that all entities desirous of importing alcohol-based hand sanitizers into Jamaica must first have an approved permit in hand from the Standards and Regulation Division of the Ministry before the supplier ships the product. The ministry said it has taken note of the significant increase in the number of entities importing alcohol-based hand sanitizers without the requisite approval. The ministry is advising that all prospective importers of hand sanitizers or alcohol for local manufacture must first contact the Standards and Regulation Division located at 45 to 47 Barbados Avenue, New Kingston, which is at the corner of Grenada Crescent and Barbados Avenue, so that they may be appropriately guided regarding the requirements for importation. Shipments which arrive in the island prior to a permit being approved are not guaranteed clearance from the ports and risk being seized and destroyed, says the ministry. The public is asked to note further that the permit is issued by the Ministry of Health and Wellness only, which authorizes the Customs Department to release a shipment of hand sanitizers to the importer. Hand sanitizers seen on the market that were not approved by the ministry may also be seized. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is calling on world leaders to action a global recovery plan amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking this morning during the United Nations UN high-level event on financing for development in the era of COVID-19 and beyond, Prime Minister Holness says the current pandemic demands an extraordinary, inclusive and sustainable global management and recovery process.
Our objective in organizing this high-level event was to secure buy-in at the highest political level to mount an ambitious, coordinated, international effort commensurate with the magnitude of the crisis. We have succeeded in gaining the support of world leaders to take bold and decisive action to mitigate the devastating impact of the pandemic. As we adopt the language of the IMF Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva, to build forward stronger, we must be bold, creative, and optimistic about the future. We can use the global financial system as a force multiplier. We must, however, ensure that we target support and recovery at all levels, nationally and globally, and acknowledge that the need for action is particularly acute in relation to developing countries, which are the most vulnerable. Indeed, until every country recovers, there can be no greener, smarter, stronger, and more equitable global recovery.
Prime Minister Holness further said that it is imperative at this time for all countries to have reliable connectivity with strong focus on strengthened resilience and transitioning over the long term to a green, inclusive and sustainable development.
The measures we will take are designed to stimulate the flows of private investment, spur the creation of decent jobs, lower the transaction cost of remittances, lay the foundations for a green, inclusive, and resilient recovery, provide liquidity to developing countries with limited fiscal space, address debt vulnerability, increase our engagement with the private sector, and collaborate with other international entities to prevent illicit financial flows. We're convinced that the scale of the crisis warrants a broad-based and coordinated international effort. The UN is the most suitable global organization to spearhead this initiative, supported by institutions with existing mechanisms that can be quickly leveraged to deliver the results urgently needed by the world, and in particular, the developing world.
The Prime Minister, along with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, co-convened today's high-level meeting, which saw almost 70 world leaders participating. In other news, People's National Party's PNP presidential candidate Lisa Hanna says she is committed to running a clean campaign for the presidency of the party and is calling on all other contenders to do the same to avoid rancor, divisiveness, and unnecessary contentiousness. Ms. Hanna said that the Jamaican people see the PNP as a divided unit and that many, especially the young, have only associated the PNP with internal leadership conflicts and bitter campaigns, and that the perceived lack of unity has been highlighted in public polling as the major contributing factor in the party's recent electoral defeats. Ms. Hanna implored her supporters, including those in the social media space and bloggers, as well as party members at large and the wider public, to stay clear of, quote, below the belt and out of bounds attacks and commentaries. Chairman of the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, Professor Hilary Beckers, has announced that an independent review team will in short order work to examine concerns surrounding the results of this year's regional examinations. In a statement yesterday, Mr. Beckers disclosed that the independent review team will shortly begin its review and, quote, present a report for discussion with relevant stakeholders, end quote. Mr. Beckers further indicated that Chief Executive Officer, CEO Dr. Wayne Wesley, who is also the CXC's registrar, and his team have met with regional ministers of education in order to discuss these concerns and identify the underlying causes with a view to moving forward and providing clarity to their stakeholders and enhanced support. Mr. Beckers stated that CXC is satisfied that the ministers have received explanations for its positions in light of the public discourse, adding that it is understood that while there might be policy and technical issues to be addressed immediately, the maintenance of public trust going forward is paramount. Residents of Chapperton in Clarendon are still in shock following the brutal murder of a well-known priest. The Anglican priest, 36-year-old Larius Lewis, rector of St. Paul's Cure in Chapperton, Clarendon, was found dead at his home at the church rectory with his hands and feet reportedly bound in the parish on Friday. The body was in a state of decomposition. Reverend Lewis was said to have been a music teacher at the Foga Road High School. He was said to be missing for 3 days. A SUV motor vehicle owned by Reverend Lewis is also missing. Reverend Winston Thomas, in speaking with our news team, explained what they know so far regarding the incident.
This morning I got in the office about 11:30 and was told that he was missing, so I called the church and asked the church leader, in fact one of the attorneys of the church, to send down to the rectory to make sure that all is well down at the rectory and to try to mobilize some team to go look for him. An hour later I got a reply that they found the body in the rectory, lifeless. It was shocking to me, devastating. I am still in grief as a colleague and also as a supervisor, as they are taken for the region in which he works. And I'm sure the entire diocese is in shock. He was a jovial person, very cordial, one of those who was involved in the creative arts, and he always used that experience of his in his interaction with people in his sermons, in his teachings, use the music and the art, creative arts, to carry across his message. And we all are in grief, you know, and it will take a time for us to be able to overcome this tragic loss.
Reverend Thomas says the crime situation starts from the home and forgiveness can only take place if someone takes responsibility for the crime.
Well, the main thing I believe for the crime situation in Jamaica is to find a root cause. And one of the things I always thought is that the root cause is at the home level. If we fix it from the home, where the parents get by the control of their children and teach them the social graces, then I believe that they will, as they grow up, will be able to inculcate in themselves the idea of treating each other as they want them to be treated. So this is the root cause, is that the home has fallen in its responsibility, and we are finding and feeling the fruits of all of that right now. Well, whoever has done this act, well, the church is always a forgiving institution, but it can only forgive when somebody has accepted responsibility and come to repentance. So I'll say that the person who has done this, sooner or later, should own up to that and to accept whatever punishment there is and whatever remission there might be.
In other news, the National Works Agency is reporting that the Junction Road in St. Mary is now closed. The road is closed at Chovy and Westmoreland Bridge due to a failure in the embankment. The NWA is advising motorists not to attempt to use this corridor as more significant movement in the embankment is expected. The NWA says the alternative route is Grandy Hole. And those were the stories making news. I'll return with the recap. We'll now take a break and then join Christopher Scott with sports.